Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Sutta Uvacha. Evam Krishna Sakha Krishna Bharatra Rajna Vikalpita. Nana Sankaspadam Rupam Krishna Vislekha Karsita.
Hare Krishna. Shuta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna over and above all Maharaja Yudhishthir's speculative inquiries.
Text 2. Sokena Sutyadvadana Ritsarajo Hatha Prabha Vibhum Tam Evanusmaran Nasaknot Pratibhatitum.
Due to grief, Arjuna's mouth and lotus-like heart had dried up. Therefore, his body lost all luster. Now, remembering the Supreme Lord, he could hardly utter a word in reply.
Text 3. Krichena Samstabaya Socha Paninan Retya Netrayo Paruksena Samunada Pranayam Kanda Katara.
With great difficulty, he checked the tears of grief that smeared his eyes. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of his sight, and he increasingly felt affection for him.
Text 4. Sakyam Maitrim Suriram Cha Sarati Su Smarsaran Nipam Agrajamitiyaha Basva Gadyata Gira.
Remembering Lord Krishna and his well-wishers, benefactions, intimate familiar relations, and his chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak.
Text 5. Arjuna Uvacha Vanchito Maharaja Harina Bandurupina Yana Me Paritam Tejo Deva Visma Bhanamaha.
Arjuna said, O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me.
Text 6. Yasya Skana Vyojena Loko Heya Priya Darsana Uksena Rahito Hesa Mritaka Prochate Yata.
I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universe unfavorable and void, like bodies without life.
Text 7. Yat Samrayat Drupadage Bakatam Rajnam Yamvaramukes Maradur Madanam Tejoritam Kalumatya Vitas Chamatsya Rajkrit Danusaga Chakrishna.
Only by his merciful strength was I able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Draupadi for the selection of the bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi.
Text 8. Yatsanidava Hamu Kandavam Agnanyadam Indram Jasamaraganam Tarasavichyatya Labda Sabamaya Kratubuta Silpamaya Digbyo Harani Patayo Balimadvar.
Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful King of heaven. Johar, what is that one? Sorry, I can't see some writing on there. After heaven, can somebody help? Yes, thank you. Indradeva, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. And only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Kandava forest, and thus he could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajashua Yagna and paid you tributes.
Yate jasane pasirone imahan mahartam aryo nujasta vakaja yuta satvanviya tenarita pramatana tamakaya bupa yan mochita sadana yan balimatvarate.
Your respectful younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants killed by his grace, Janardhana, whose feet were worshipped by many kings, these kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarachandha's Mahavirairava Yagna, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty.
Text 10. Patnya savade makaklipta mahabhiseka slagista charu kabaram kavite sabhyayam Pristram vikirya patayo patirus mukhya yastat sriyokrita hadesa vimukta kesa.
It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajashua sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes.
Text 11. Yono jugopa vana ete duranta krichat durvasa sori rachitad ayugrita bukya sakana sista mupayuchya yatasri lokem Ripta mamamsta salile vinikma sangha.
During our exile, Durvasha Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time, he, Lord Krishna, simply by accepting the remnants of food, saved us. By his accepting food, thus, the assembly of Munis, while bathing in the river, fell sumptuously fed, and all the three worlds were also satisfied.
Text 12. Yate just sata bhagavan yudhi sulapaner bisma pita sarigri jostramadane jamme anya pichaha manuveva kalevarena prapto mahendra vane mahat asandaram.
It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God Lord Shiva and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me with his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me. And in addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half elevated seat.
Text 13. Tatre vamevi harato pujadanda yukmam gandhi valakshana marati vadyadeva sendra sritaya danupavitam ajamita tena hamadya musita purusena pumna.
When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indrava, took shelter of my arms, which were marked with the Gandiva bow. To kill the demon named Nivataka Bhaja, O king, descendant of Ajmidha, at the present moment I am bare feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful.
Yadba. Text 14. Yadbandava kuru balabde mananda param ekoratena tatare ham atirya satvam Pratyaritam bahudanam shamaya paresam tejas padamanimayam charitam siropya.
The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelt many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows and also collected by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels and were sources of all brilliance.
Text 15. Yo Bismakarna Gurusalya Kam Suvadapara Rajanya Varyaratamandalamandis Agre Charomama Vibarata Yutpanam Ayur Mama Manamsi Chadrisa Saha Ojaracha.
It was he only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone, and who, in the battlefield, withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm from the great military phalanx made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Salya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but he, Lord Sri Krishna, while going forward, did all this.
Fact 16. Yado Suma Pranihitam Guru Bismakana Naptre Trigartha Salyam Sainatava Balikya Asraniamo Kama Hinami Nupate No Papsru Nahane Dasamiva Surane.
Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Shushrama, Shalya, Jayadharta, and Bhalika all directed their invisible weapons against me. But by his Lord Krishna's grace, they couldn't even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlada Maharaj and the supreme devotee of Lord Narasimha was unaffected by the weapons of demons used against me.
Text 17. Sotyavrita ko mataisvarome yadpada padmam abhavaya pojanti bhavya mam srandavaha maraya ratino puvistam na praharan yadanupava nirastachita.
It was by his mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses, and it was due to my lack of esteem for my Lord that I dared engage him as my chariot driver, for he is worshipped and offered services by the best man to attain salvation.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Please forgive me for my mistakes.
Hare Krishna. Om Gyanatimidandasya Gyananjana Salakayam Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you again for tuning in into our chat sessions on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you for all the devotees who participated in the wonderful recitation. So today we've been tasked by discussing Canto 1, Chapter 15, the Pandavas Retired Timely, and the text number 9 and text number 10. So let's start. So we can see that in this wonderful section, just to give kind of a brief overview, This is a conversation narrated by Sutta Goswami, and he speaks at the moment or presents the points as Arjuna speaking to King Yudhishthira. From the previous chapter which we've been discussing recently, Arjuna was despondent. King Yudhishthira, Arjuna entered oh Krishna, it's not Indraprastha.
Hastinapur.
Oh, Krishna, I was thinking about what's the word for elephant? Hastinapur. Exactly. Thank you so much. So Arjuna entered Hastinapur when King Yudhishthira was seeing varieties of very bad omens, very bad nimittas. And in this way, he kind of concluded and understood that something really, really bad happened. And continuing in this chapter, the Pandavas retired timely. Now Arjuna is speaking to King Yudhishthira and kind of glorifies how Krishna is the actual ability in man. He's recollecting all the past and previous sort of deeds and empowerments that Krishna benefited the Pandavas. So from the text 5, Arjuna speaks, "O king, the supreme personality of Godhead Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me." So we can see that Arjuna was just a tool, not just a tool. Obviously, he was an intimate friend, but he was working as a tool, and he was empowered to such a degree that even the powerful demigods like Indra, like Shiva, been defeated and pacified by the power of Arjuna. I have just lost him, whose separation for a moment will render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life. So this section, bodies without life, is basically life represents the prana. So you have certain pranic airs which are circulating within your body, and the soul rests upon one of these pranic airs. And that prana is a sort of a via medium between the spiritual energy of the soul and the active energy of the body. So just like the pranic air is gone from the body, that means the body is immovable, is useless. So just like when Krishna leaves the physical presence of Arjuna, Arjuna feels despondent and useless. In the text 7, only by his merciful strength was able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Draupadi for the selection of bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi. Here he says that the actual feat of that Swayamvar ceremony of Draupadi, that was Krishna. That ability to actually perform such a Herculean task, such a very difficult activity, was empowered and sanctioned by Krishna directly. In text 8, because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradev, who is basically the father of Arjuna, along with his demigod associates, and thus enabled the fire god to devastate the Gandhava forest. And only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Gandhava forest. And thus we could build our assembly house and of a wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yagya and paid you tributes. So here Arjuna again is saying that in his great humility, that the actual power which was bestowed upon him was coming from Krishna. This is very interesting how Vaishnavas, how devotees, they always think in such a way. Whatever great feats the devotees perform, we are actually at the moment, we are in Manchester doing book distribution. And there are days when the books are just flying and everything is just perfect. And you just do like incredible amount of books, can collect this big amount of Lakshmi. But today was kind of slightly challenging. We've been in Liverpool and it was not going so well. But even that is mercy and shows that how Krishna can humble you very easily if he kind of withdraws that potency and that blessing. But even by not having that empowerment is actually a blessing, because it shows you how great you are not. So that's amazing blessing. So thank you, Krishna, for showing us that we are quite useless. In the text number 9, which is the one we're going to be discussing today, Your respectable younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Mahabhairava Yagya, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty. So this is basically Arjuna speaking to Yudhishthira about Bhima. So when we kind of open and go through this, through the text, we can see Prabhupada gives very profound, beautiful pastime about the background of the demon or King Jarasandha. So Prabhupada speaks that he was from the province of Bihar, if I remember correctly, king of Magadha, but he had no son, although he married 2 daughters of King Kashi. I think it was Bihar. I think he mentioned Bihar. Yeah. So
Yes,
this,
Prabhuji, Magadha is in Bihar.
yeah, this Magadha, this province of Magadha is now in the province of Bihar. So this is interesting pastime. So we can kind of go in the 10th canto, kind of slightly narrate the whole pastimes of King Jarasandha. So Jarasandha was related to King Kamsa, and after the death of Kamsa, Jarasandha became like a sworn enemy of Krishna. And in the 10th canto, in the chapter 71, there's it's sort of in first, I don't know, maybe 10 verses. In the 10 verses, basically, they speak about this particular pastime. So just to give kind of a brief overview, King Jarasandha was a very powerful king, right? He had the same strength as Bhima. And once they've been actually discussing, because they wanted to enthrone King Yudhishthira to be as like a king, an emperor of the whole planet. And for this to happen, Rajasuya sacrifice has to happen, and also Ashwamedha Yagya has to happen. So both of these yagyas means that other kings, they actually accept the rulership of that particular king out of the strength, sheer strength and power to rule. So in this way, all the 5 brothers, they kind of they've been ready to go and conquer all the 4 directions. And this is interesting because they didn't know what to do in certain point. In one point, they wanted to enthrone Yudhishthira, but same time with the other point, King Jarasandha became a really, really great problem in the whole world. And he also captured a lot of kings, and these kings, they kind of petitioned Krishna and petitioned Yudhishthira to kind of save them. So they've been perplexed what to do. But then they took shelter of Uddhava. They took shelter of Krishna, but Krishna suggested, out of humility and glorifying his devotees, said, Uddhava, you're a very smart person. Why don't you help us with this perplexion? And Uddhava, in a very diplomatic, political, and very cultured and in an understanding way, he suggested, you know what, go and kill Jarasandha in disguise. And then Krishna suggested to go like a Brahmana, to go like, I think 3 Brahmanas, I think was like Arjuna, Bhima, and Krishna. And Jarasandha was very well known for never rejecting a benediction or boon for the Brahmanas. So they went into the place of Jarasandha and disguised as Brahmanas. And this is interesting. In Mahabharata, it's actually mentioned that with them, Brahmanas, they have certain type of consciousness, certain type of vision, right? Brahmanas, they look at books, they feel inspired by, literature, inspired by, I don't know, cleanliness, deity worship, meditation processes and whatnot, education. But these 3 Brahmanas have been very, very different, because when they've been walking through the palace of Jarasandha, they've been looking at all these weapons which have been hanging on the walls, all these arrows and bows and knives and tridents and swords and machetes and axes and whatnot, shields. And they've been like, oh, wow, have you seen that sword? Yeah, that must be a very cool type of a steel they're using or what. And Jarasandha was like, oh, these are very, unusual Brahmanas. So he said, okay, how can I serve you? And then Bhima kind of revealed his disguise. Said, well, since you asked me, well, I want the boon that you fight with me. And it's like, okay, this is a bit odd for a Brahmana, but yeah, sure, why not? the reason why they wanted to fight one-on-one is because Jarasandha had massive amount of armies, big armies, and they didn't want to get into heavy skirmish like that at this point. So Bhima, they've been fighting with King Jarasandha for quite a substantial amount of time, and they couldn't win. Both of them in very expert charioteers, very expert swordsmen, and ultimately they've been expert in mace fighting, right? They had these gadas, these great maces. They've been fighting, fist fighting, right? All these different things, and no one was actually winning. That's how powerful Jarasandha was in comparison to Bhima. But in relation to our today's verse, and Prabhupada says the whole pastime that Jarasandha was a son of King Brihadrata, and he received a boon to have a son from one Chandra Kaushika Rishi. This Rishi fed to the two wives a mango, and this mango sort of kind of impregnated them. And out of the mango, or out of the wombs of these two queens, came two halves of Jarasandha. So they went to the forest, they performed the tapasya, but then when the child was born, they kind of left it in the forest because, it's not really, beautiful picture to see two halves of a child being split in half and like, okay, what to do? So they left it in the forest. But then in the forest, there was this she-demon known as Jara. So Jara, he put him together, kind of went together, and soul entered the body. And she went back to the king, Brihadrata, and she said, okay, here's your child. Only boon I wish is that you name him after me, Jarasandha. So he's actually named after she-demon, Jarasandha. So yeah, and when Bhima was fighting with Jarasandha, Krishna took a stick, and he took the stick and expertly kind of half it in the middle. So this, for Bhima, in the middle of the fight, is like, okay, I know what to do now. So Bhima stand on one of his legs. When he put him on the floor, on the ground, stand one of the legs, grab another leg, and just split him in half. So that must be quite an interesting sight. It was quite raw. And in this way, they kind of accomplished both. So as King Yudhishthira was in the middle of sort of a planning and mobilizing and conquering the planet, all the kings which were sort of captured by King Jarasandha, they've been very grateful, they've been very happy, and they immediately give all obedience to King Yudhishthira, and they respected Bhima, they respected Arjuna, had great love and respect, obviously, for Krishna. So in this way, is a bit of a Mahabharata type of a pastime, and in this way, both of the situation, they've been sought out by one fight, which not millions and millions had to die. So Bhimasena, he conquered in this way the province in Bihar, and all the other kings being subjugated just by the death of the capture of the one who captured these kings, which is King Jarasandha. So in the text number 10, Prabhupada continues, Arjuna continues, it was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dare open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes. So this is about Queen Draupadi. Queen Draupadi had a beautiful bunch of hair, which was sanctified in the ceremonial functions of Rajasuya Yajna. But when she was lost in the bed, Dushasana touched her glorified hair to insult her. Draupadi then fell down on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna decided that all the wives of Dushasana and company should have their hair loosened as a result of the battle of Kurukshetra. Thus, after the battle of Kurukshetra, after all the sons and grandsons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, all the wives of the family were obliged to loosen their hair as widows. In other words, all the wives of the Kuru family became widows because of Dushasana insulting great devotee of the Lord. The Lord can tolerate insult upon himself by any miscreant, because any miscreant, because the Father tolerates even insult from the Son, but he never tolerates insult upon his devotees. By insulting great soul, one has to forego all the results of pious acts and benedictions also. Yeah, so in this section, basically, it's a bit of a culture event here, that it is said that the strength, certain strengths of chaste and pious women come from them having braided hair as long as possible. So this is why the culture in India, ladies have usually and traditionally very, very long hair. Just like men have shikas, the ladies traditionally should have like long hair. So because of this offense to a very pious and chaste lady, like Queen Draupadi, the whole Kurukshetra slaughter kind of happened. So this only shows in the modern day and age how it's a great sort of a situation, because in the past the chastity of woman was something which is very profound, very deep. Unfortunately, I can kind of say that, you know, we're doing book distribution, we're traveling, and as the summer is coming more and more, some or another, the clothes they can be becoming less and less. It only shows that how the chastity of womanhood is just not protected anymore, and is not sort of not valued anymore. And I was thinking about this, not because, you know, kind of like, you know, I'm a brahmachari or anything, but for the sake that all of us, we receive and we have our power from different sources. We're getting kind of a strength from different places. It's different source of strength from grihasta, for sannyasi, for vanaprastha, for brahmachari. Grihasta or brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and shudra. And one of the great strengths of the society and protection of the society depends on the chastity of women. And you can see that, especially these day and age, it's not protected anymore. There's no much value. Fathers are almost not able to protect their daughters because they do whatever they desire. And actually, I saw recently this amazing picture. There was a couple, elderly parents, and they've been in the middle of a street, and the daughter was running towards them, and she was quite, you know, revealing and obnoxiously dressed. And I was just looking at the father, and the father, he was just so disappointed. It was like, you could just see it in his face that how disappointed it was for him to, you know, see his daughter being like that. So it just shows that how the situation in society is just like very unstable, and it's just not correct, in my humble opinion. And in a contradiction, in the Vedic times, when a chaste woman was offended, there was a great calamity happening. Because chastity is not something which is cheap. Chastity is not something which is kind of easily overlooked, but it's something which can trigger really great sort of a series of calamities. So in the said, when the offenses happen, then the whole Kurukshetra war was kind of like a causality of offending very chaste lady. So I'm not, and this is not any taking like a go, but it just shows that how we're losing certain values as a society. Obviously, men, we have to also develop that character and stability of a devotional practitioners. Otherwise, you know, the morals and values of the society are very easily crumbling in comparison to the strength and presentation which is held in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the reason is that because the mind, part of the mind is thinking, feeling, and willing. And if the mind is not controlled by intellect or intelligence or correct discrimination, some years or some time down the line, what happens, the mind will overtake the intelligence. And the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, start dictating to the intelligent And let's say, I would say, I don't like you as an activity of feeling. And the intelligence will come up with all the sort of intellectual reasons why we don't like someone, and vice versa. And I think I mentioned this before. That's why studying and seeing things through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam can really strengthen our own intellectual presentation and understanding of the reality. And in this way, our Krishna consciousness becomes less sort of a material sentimental, becomes much more strengthened by the correct vision, by the correct understanding. So we can kind of open it up for questions and points. I think this is quite fertile points, which many devotees we have certain opinions on. So in the verse number 9, we can see how the ingenuity and consciousness and real true understanding of Uddhava, who received also his blessings and ability from the blessings of Krishna, shows the capability of Vaishnavas to basically create managerial situations which are beneficial to sorting out multiple of problems simultaneously. Just like Uddhava suggested, King killed King Jarasandha, and same time all these kings subdued by Jarasandha will become indebted to King Yudhishthira. And in text number 10, we can see how the chastity and purity of a woman is protected to such a degree that the whole Kuru dynasty, in the form of all the men being slaughtered because of offense at the sacrifice. So I'll leave it here. If devotees have any points or any questions or anything they wish to share, please do so. So if you have any personal message or anything you wish to share with me, and we can read out the question or read out the point, please do so. Otherwise, unmute yourself and present whatever you desire to. Any reflections, any points from the devotees?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, my humble obeisances unto you. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Of
Very nice, concise and precise class, very intellectual. It was very nice to listen to you. The last point that you said about women, the chastity of women. So like in history, it's happened a kind of, obviously where it's very bewildering when we read the history through the eyes of Shastra. It is very like those days, I mean, ancient time, Vedic times were very intellectual and very moralistic, and it was very advanced. And as Kali is progressing, it's deteriorating. But then again, when we learn through material education, when we see history, we are told that before it was all a bit of hodgepodge, and now it's more law and order is, we are progressing and there is more law and order. Before it was chaotic. There were wars, and obviously you see the history of women. Women were not given so much power. So nowadays it is more of what they call equal rights and everything. And before, historically, women were subdued and exploited. So we are progressing. So this kind of, it's very bewildering when we see through eyes of Shastra. The age of Kali is deteriorating, but when we see through material history, we are progressing. So that's my kind of, I mean, I can understand obviously, but this is what it is.
Yeah. The other day I was speaking on book distribution. This is in Reading with one lady. She was a feminist. And And she was like, oh, why only men are here, which are monks? And what you have against women, they've been always sort of used in your tradition. I was like, where do you have this from? That's utter nonsense. And I started kind of giving her varieties of examples from the Vedic scriptures about how women are actually one of the most important individuals in the Vedic society, because they're first gurus of the children. And they are the ones who are protecting the family values. They are the ones who kind of nurturing the new generations. They are the ones who are giving blessings. They are the ones who have so much strength, some seemingly behind the curtains. If you see great kings in the past, what gave them that strength, that power, was actually the power of family, the power of coming home and being supported, being somehow, if you are a hero, if you wish someone to be a hero, you need to give him reasons to be a hero, to be strong. If we're looking at strength, we need to see what is the source of our strength. So all these great kshatriyas, all these great leaders in the past, they've always been very valiant, chaste, and pious ladies standing behind. And people don't sort of recognize this anymore. They think that strength lies in some kind of a masculinity, and that's what people try to kind of tap themselves into, unfortunately. And what they do, it's that you're disempowering yourself to such a great scale. I remember my good mother, when she needed something from me, she was really sneaky. She came to me and it's like, for instance, oh, I don't feel very well today. And would you mind helping me? Like, and she started like, I know you're tired, but I'm your mother and I'm slightly tired myself. Would you mind helping me? And she did it she made me to do chores out of position of love, out of position of that she requests me. And it brings a completely different dynamics. Rather than ordering me something as a rebellious teenager, I would most likely reject. But she was always so intelligent that she tapped into something which only mothers have, and that is that almost like a dependence upon the son, and that triggers certain things, and you just naturally go and do it just to please your mother. So yeah, I think the times are very much changing. And now more and more I see how the society is crumbling, and how the society crumbling in the sense that there's untrained population, untrained children. They're very much disturbed. They're very naughty. They're doing a lot of bad things. I was in Nottingham the other week and I saw children in the age of 12 in the middle of the street, like smoking marijuana, and I was like, you have no parents? Where are your parents? What on earth you guys are doing? Language was very foul, very terrible. And this only shows that, yeah. Anyway, Krishna consciousness doesn't only create like Vaishnavas and devotees, but also as a side effect of that, it creates a society which is based on values and protection rather than immoral activity and exploitation. And that's what Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us. That if we are able to embrace our psychophysical natures, whatever it may be, a body of a woman or a body of a man, it creates a balance within a society. So the sooner we kind of learn certain activities which go along with that, the more happier and situated we will be. This is my humble opinion. If devotees wish to share any other points, please do so.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yes, it is. So unless we learn, unless we have the spiritual knowledge, unless we read Prabhupada's books, unless we, develop this, we will not understand, because when you hear the news, it's always, it's so opposite. And we see why is it happening? Why in Kali Yuga so many disturbing news come up every day. And when we see it through the eyes of Shastra, we understand, where the fault is. is the fault of, the fault is in education, isn't it? From the very beginning of life, Vedic education is so good that you will become a good citizen, but not only good citizen, I mean, you'll be God conscious, you will be so many things, but because the education is faulty from the very beginning, that's why we see so many disturbances in society, and it has to be corrected absolutely in the beginning. You have to like the root cause, you have to go to the root cause and correct society. And whatever is happening nowadays is trying to correct, which is not going to solve any problems, but trying to correct it in a patchwork, doing here, doing there, but then everything is toppling up again. So yeah.
Thank you for summarizing very nicely, putting in the very, very nice words.
Thank you.
Any other points, dear devotees? Anything else you wish to share, reflect on? Any questions? I apologize, it was not so thrilling because we had a last couple of days or last couple of weeks really intense, sort of a Sankirtan, almost a marathon. So a bit tired last couple of days, but it's always good fun. It's very rejuvenating. I suggest now and then you try to do that and tap yourself into that. I saw a lot of miracles happening on the streets as well. And I see many devotees kind of going beyond their sort of limitations of the mind, and see how they're getting really so much taste for sharing Krishna consciousness. It's really rewarding. So any points? Otherwise, we're going to call it a day. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanam Vaishnavyo namo namah. Dear devotees, thank you so much for your time, for your wonderful dedication. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.